Welcome back, Quarantimers. Jack from Conductive Music here with a whistle-stop tour of how to program the main theme from Super Mario Bros. Into Soundtrap. Today we will be performing on our standard keyboard to input the musical lines. Parts of this may be tricky, but just be patient with yourself to get the results you want. Okay, let's go straight back to Soundtrap. So let's get set up with a new track over here, and we're going to put in a piano. First things first, we're going to need to reduce the tempo of the overall piece. So down here, and we're going to go to about 65. So the keys you're going to need for this is going to be the comma, B, C, N, M and J. So I'll just put those up there for you. In Soundtrap, the great thing is that you can actually just record over what you've done, so you don't need to create multiple tracks. The next bar is going to require B, comma, Q, R, W and E. The next section is going to require the comma, the full stop, M and Q. This is a bit of a tricky one because there is that kind of split you've got across the keyboard. So, okay, let's give it a go recording. The next section is going to use E, 3, W, Q and 1. And then B, N, comma. Finally, the last three notes we're going to need are going to be 1, full stop and comma. Okay, well done for your patience, but the most tricky part is out of the way. Don't forget, if you have inputted notes incorrectly, you can always erase them in the piano editor. Okay, so listening to that, some of these rhythms aren't exactly in the right place, and that's totally understandable because we have been just recording them in quite quickly. Let's just go to this first one. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start moving these a little bit closer to where I think they should be. They're generally fairly well on. I'm going to proceed through the rest of this track now and do the same thing. Okay, let's go back to our original tempo and give it a listen. Much of the music for this Super Mario Bros. Theme moves in sixths or thirds, so we should be able to just move the notes around to generate the lower voice. So to create the lower voice, what we're going to do is duplicate this track by clicking there, and that duplicates the material on it as well. Up to bar 3, a lot of the movement of the lower voice is actually in sixths. So what I'm going to do is just put the cursor here, click the track, I'm going to click on the right mouse button and go down to split region. With the track zoomed in, we're going to actually now lower this section. We're going to go over to edit and we're going to go to change pitch and we're going to go down to -9. Now can you see these notes here that just dropped? There is one more thing we're going to have to do because it doesn't sound quite right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and find any notes in this section that have a little flat sign. Can you see that says E flat 3? Any that have that, we're going to start by raising one semitone, and then we're going to have a listen to it. I'm going to make an exception for these notes because there is some chromatic movement that does explain that there. So I'm going to zoom out so I can show this to you properly. From here to the end of bar 6, we actually have most of our movement in thirds, with the exception of just a few. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this, and I'm going to go to edit. I'm going to go down to change pitch, and I'm going to ask the computer to go down by 4 semitones. Okay, so the same situation as the first one. Some of these notes are correct and some are clearly not. So I'm going to ignore some of these chromatic passing notes here, and I'm going to apply the same principle. Let me just zoom into this a little bit so you can see. Any note, I said ignoring these 3 first notes, any note here that has a flat sign, I'm going to raise by 1 semitone just by doing this. Okay, let's give that a quick listen. I'm going to go and do that for all of the rest of them, again ignoring these little chromatic notes here. Okay, so we've got our 2 parts working together here nicely. I've just added the bass part, so we're going to do a bit more recording. Now the great thing is, this here, the first part, we can actually use for our bass line mostly. So I'm going to go back up here, I'm going to move the cursor across, I'm going to click on the track, I'm going to right click and go down to split region. And then I'm going to copy that identically. So let's hold down Alt or Option, and then I'm just going to drag this down to, there we go. This is going to be our bass part. Our first task is to drop this. So I can do Command and A, or I could highlight all the notes. And then once they're highlighted, you can just drag them down an octave. And then let's take it down 1 more octave. Let's go somewhere there. Okay, similar to our previous examples, anything with a flat sign, I'm actually going to raise 1 semitone, and let's have a listen and see where we are. Apart from this section here, which does have some chromatic movement, so we just leave those for the time being. This A and this A here, I actually think needs to be a G, so I'm just going to drag those down. Okay, so that's sounding a lot more like the Mario theme tune we know and love. Unfortunately for this bass section, we can't actually use any of this material up here, and we're going to have to record our own in. But don't worry, it's not very complicated as it only uses about 3 notes. Okay, so we're going to want to quantize this section. And the reason we're not quantizing this section is rather technical. It's because we've got what's known as a triplet here. And if I put the quantize on, it's going to really mess around with that, and we don't want that. If you don't know what that means, don't worry, but you'll be able to hear it probably in the music. So let's just have if I control A here, I'm going to go to the other, click to the right mouse button, go down to quantize and 160. So we have our 3 voices that we've generated solely by using the computer keyboard. So next what I'd like you to do is to come up here, we're going to duplicate this top track. Okay, so that's a copy of that one, and then we're going to duplicate our second voice as well. So with this top voice, click on the edit button, and we're going to change the pitch by 12. And we're also going to do that for this first bit as well. We're also going to do it for this track here as well. So edit, change pitch 12, and then edit, change pitch 12. Okay, so I think we've got our voicing correct now. Let's go back and speed up to 120. Right, let's start to add some drums to this track as well. So let's go to loops and beats, and then just have a listen to see if some of these suit. let's change the Rhodes keyboard sound for some synthesizers to make it really sound like Super Mario Brothers. So let's try auditioning some synths for our very first track here. Let's bring up the instrument again, and we're going to go down to synths here. So let's keep this playing. I can just press the space bar and hear it in the background. Now let's go up to leads. Let's try this first one. Yes, definitely that's going to be really good. Let's get out of that second. Can you hear it's got quite a lot of reverb on it? I'm going to take that down a little bit. It's also got a little bit of delay. I'm going to take that down as well. So for the next step, I'm going to repeat that, looking for other synth voices that work really well together, and the result is coming up. We've come to the end of the tutorial today. I really hope you had fun programming the music with me. For some reason, it's made me crave pizza. Anyway, please take care and as ever, stay safe.